Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. Officially, National Pollinator Week was last week, but it's never a bad time to celebrate when it comes to the birds and the bees. UVM Extension Master Gardener Julie Parker-Dickerson visited a nursery in Essex Junction where going native is for the birds and the bees and the butterflies. Here's Julie.
Hi, I'm at Full Circle Gardens today celebrating Pollinator Week. Full Circle Garden offers a wide variety of awesome native plants to enhance your home habitat. I've selected a number of awesome plants here to help host butterflies and moths in your garden. When we're thinking about Pollinator Week, we're thinking about enhancing habitat, reducing our pesticide use, and making sure that we're providing plants that provide habitat and food, sometimes overwintering sites for our favorite pollinators. So a pollinator is any insect or animal that brings pollen from a male flower to a female flower. So let's have a look at some. Our first plant we're going to check out is the lupin. Lupin starts at the very beginning of the year. You'll know it because it's got these tall purple flowers and really interesting foliage. What's great about lupin, Lupin perennius, is it is a native to our area, and it hosts over 26 different kinds of butterflies and moths, including the endangered Carner blue, orange, and yellow sulfurs. After those big purple blooms die back, you can cut them back, and they'll actually come back again. Sometimes will rebloom, but you'll have some really interesting foliage that will serve as a ground cover. So instead of buying mulch, buy a lupin. The next plant that I really want to feature is a soft landing. So if you have a space for a tree, which is actually one of your best pollinator plants, especially something that provides some dapple shade, like a serviceberry, a white fringe tree, sometimes even like your maples or your oaks have some dappled shade underneath. You could plant a perennial geranium. I have two examples of perennial geranium here, one in bloom and one that's just about there. It just has a little bit amount of flowers on it. These provide a landing under the tree. So when the tree produces caterpillars, the caterpillars can overwinter within this plant in the leaves that fall from the tree. You can also tuck those leaves in under the perennials. And then you don't have to do as much of a cleanup job. And this plant is also providing flowers and nectar to adult butterflies and moths. So another great thing to love about geraniums. I want to move on to the next plant of the season. And right now it's in bloom, Penstemon digitalis. This is a great transition plant. It will self-seed, and if you check out the shape of the flowers, it's really great for hummingbirds. Penstemon digitalis has a really nice tall stature. It's in bloom right now. So when we're thinking about Pollinator Week in June 19th through the 21st, we've got these great tall spires. They're great for bees to climb right into. And it self-sows, and it hosts a wide variety of butterflies and moths. My next plant doesn't look like much now, but if you wait just a little bit of time, it's going to bloom through September. St. John's wort. Now you might associate this with some memory pills. However, great St. John's wort is actually a great small shrub. So as an herbaceous perennial, we're looking at it right now, but when you buy it, it turns into a quite large plant, about 3 feet tall with some width on it. This plant has bright yellow flowers that bees love. Again, over 20 different species of butterflies and moths will lay their eggs. Their caterpillars will consume this plant and often will overwinter on it for next generation. So great St. John's wort will sometimes have foliage that stays green in the winter time if it's in a protected spot. Something I love about that plant. I want to move over to the next plant in your season. So again, there aren't any flowers on this right now, but we all love sunflowers. While the annual sunflower is Vermont's only native annual, this is a perennial sunflower. So this is Maximilian. Maximilian can get really tall, as sort of the name suggests. and it has beautiful bright yellow flowers. So as the weather starts to cool a little bit, towards the end of the summer, you're going to see those flowers come up. You can almost see a little bit of it starting right now. And you'll be able to have this plant come back every single year. You might need to do a little staking on it, but this plant, again, hosts a number of different butterflies and moths. It'll turn into sort of a bush-sized plant, which is kind of awesome because it'll take up quite a bit of space in your yard. So when you think about spacing, putting a few things together, and the perennial sunflower, which is really great in the fall, if you wake up in the morning or even in the early evening and the weather starts to cool, you might see some sleeping bumblebees on your plant. Love that. The last one I want to talk about, a lot of people are very familiar with Joe Pyeweed or Eupatorium, which has actually got a number of plants within that same name, Eupatorium. The plant that I have here has some holes in it, and that's what I'm looking for. I want to feed butterflies and moths. They are the foundation for our ecosystem. So what I'm seeing is some holes in plants. That means somebody enjoyed this plant already. This plant gets about 3 feet tall, beautiful white flowers, and what's great is the foliage is textured. So you think about like a tomato plant and it's got little hairs on it. This one has these little tiny hairs on it. It's a little more manageable than your really tall Joe Pyeweed. It's also an endangered plant in Vermont. So if you see it in the wild, you're pretty lucky because it happens to live in mostly wetland areas. So if you have a wet spot in your yard, this is the right one for you. It also has great white foliage. So it's that bright color, that bright white at the end of the season when things start changing, when it starts getting a little oranges and reds in our gardens. And a lot of the other plants are dying back. So all these plants here, if I were to put all these in, would represent 100% native perennial garden. The ratio you're looking for is 70% native to 30% non-native. So if your yard currently contains non-native rhododendrons and boxwoods and hydrangeas, that's totally okay. Add a few perennials like these, which generally are a little less costly, and you could add them to any setting, rural, urban, or suburban, and really enhance your offering to wildlife in your area. For a great resource, check out Doug Talmey's book, Bringing Nature Home, and any one of his other titles. These books can help support you with the knowledge to plant a native plant garden in your yard. In addition to that, he has got a great online resource with the National Wildlife Federation. Just put in your zip code in their plant finder, and he's going to provide you with dozens of keystone plants, some of which I featured here today, that are perfect for your area. Happy planting! This is Julie Parker-Dickerson with Across the Fence.
Visit the UVM Extension Master Gardener website at the address on your screen for more information about pollinators and adding native and keystone plants to your landscape. And if you need a little extra help, ask a Master Gardener at the helpline 802-656-5421. From our A story about pollinators to our B story about, you guessed it, bees. The Vermont Bee Lab is a research and outreach laboratory located at the University of Vermont. The lab is dedicated to the protection of pollinators through research, education, and outreach. Ben Willis buzzed by to the lab and filed this report.
In Jeffords Hall on the UVM campus in Burlington, there is a small research and outreach laboratory dedicated to the protection of pollinators.
At the Vermont Bee Lab, our mission is to protect both wild and managed pollinators. So we do a lot of work with supporting beekeepers throughout the state and performing diagnostic services for beekeepers to make informed disease management decisions.
So why is the work of the Vermont Bee Lab so important?
We use our diagnostic services and kind of our resources and capabilities at the lab not only to support hobbyist beekeepers throughout the state, but also commercial operations as we gain a better understanding of and kind of quantify pathogen loads. We can support them to make better selections for breeding purposes and improve honeybee stock across the state to mitigate colony loss for our commercial operations and for our hobbyist beekeepers.
The Vermont Bee Lab was created by UVM Assistant Professor Samantha Alger, who is also the current director of the lab.
Samantha Alger started the Vermont Bee Lab as a way to protect both wild and managed pollinators. So currently we have been targeting Vermont beekeepers as a way to reduce pathogen spread into native bee populations. We found that both viruses and other pathogens are able to spread from honeybees to wild bees of all species. So this is a really great way for us to kind of identify and understand the distribution of disease across the state and understand how we can better protect wild pollinators as well. Here we are processing diagnostic samples that Vermont beekeepers have submitted to our lab to test for both varroa mites and nosema. Varroa mites are an ectoparasite that inflict honeybees by feeding off the fat bodies of the bees and weakening the colony as a whole. It's a major issue for beekeepers that we'd like to test for. We also test for nosema, and this is an endoparasite that kind of sucks the nutrients out of the bee and is often kind of unknown as a disease in a colony, so it's important for us to identify spores using microscopy for the beekeeper.
So how does someone go about submitting a sample?
So any beekeeper can submit samples free of charge to the Vermont Bee Lab if you have your own bees and are looking to evaluate the health of your bees. We have drop boxes across the state, so you can find on our website our local drop box location that you can submit your sample to. You can also ship it directly to our lab. We ask that you fill out a submission form with your sample so we have some information when we go to diagnose your bees. And then you'll receive a diagnostic report within 2 weeks after submitting your samples.
Part of the lab's mission is to provide education and public outreach to inform beekeepers, stakeholders, and the general public on the future of bees and beekeeping. At the University of Vermont, I'm Ben Willis with Across the Fence.
I want to thank all the busy bees behind the scenes here at WCAX for making our program possible. We've come to the end of today's program, but we don't want to kill your buzz, so we'll leave you today with some B-roll. I'm Jolie Whitney. Have a good one.